All right. Hey, James, how are you? We are
I'm
back.
great. Happy
We are back
Friday.
live. I know. Happy Friday in 2022, which feels like, hey, Super Sunny D, what's going on? David, how are you? I'm glad to see everybody here. I know it's kind of a weird live because we tacked it on kind of at last minute just the other day, but we wanted to get back in the routine of being here live on Fridays. We're not going to be able to do it every Friday like we were gung ho doing at the end of last year, but we have it planned that we're going to do it one time a month on a schedule. And I don't know if this is actually our scheduled week. I think we were shooting for the first week of the month. If I Am I
We
right on
were.
that, James?
We
So
were.
we'll let everybody know, but we're going to be here for one time a month on a Friday. This time, we'll just let you know what week it's going to be because these become live coaching sessions, and we also know from a lot of people that on Fridays they watch the recordings later on their way home from work and things like that. So it's an important thing to do. So welcome everybody. I actually went through, James. I don't know if you have questions because you and I haven't talked about this,
I
but I
do.
went through the comments and put a couple of questions from the comments,
Okay.
so we can. And I'm going to try to give nice, sweet, short, sweet answers if we can. So, okay, so 32 days, Steve Mack, very awesome, beautiful. I'm so glad to hear that. Actually, I was talking to Jackie yesterday, and we made a recording of it, and she was saying, that she's working with people who have gotten 2 days of, no porn behind them, and 32 days is a lot of days, Steve. So that is really an amazing thing.
Great
Uh,
accomplishment.
I don't know how to say that. What is it? Tus Nasser? Hi, Tus. How are you? We're glad to have everybody here. Okay, so if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. Oh, and you know what, Ali, I already have uh, PMO in your dreams, sexual fantasy, porn portraits in my mind, and porn for sleep are on my list. So I'm going to get to all of your questions for sure. Okay, so James,
Right.
what do you got going here?
All right. Hey, Eric. How are you?
Yeah, hi Mark. I'm glad people are
You're coming in.
trickling in here.
All right. Got one from Haid. I've been watching porn for 6 years now, and I have developed porn-induced ADHD. If I quit cold turkey now, can you please tell me how long it will take to recover?
The how long does it take to recover question, the
Yeah.
age old question that I have tried to answer multiple times this week. You know how it goes. But that question is the most difficult. And obviously, I can't put my thumb on that. But what I can tell you is that the good news is if you can stay out of the screen and start implementing the strategies that I talk about, you will begin to build momentum earlier than you realize. That's the most important thing, where you go, okay, I've been out of the screen for 32 days, your brain, and, I'm sure Steve Mack can maybe give me just I don't know if he's feeling better and clearer and sharper and more focused and more motivated. Give me drop something in the chat box, because that is the truth, is that after 32 days, your brain should start feeling a lot better. If you feel like you're in a flat line and you're feeling terrible, you're not implementing enough strategies. So, time's one thing. And I know we focus on the time parameter. It's more like, what are you doing to rewire and refire up the frontal lobe? That's where ADHD and attention challenges lie. So get out of the screen and get doing things to fire up your brain. Now, what are those things? I talk about them in a lot of the videos, but force yourself to do some of your work. Force yourself to go hang out with your people. And, first you'll have to force yourself, but then you'll begin to enjoy it and your brain will start coming online. Force yourself to go do your hobbies. And before you know it, you'll be building those habits and you'll be feeling great. 360 Desi TV and a flatline. You hear me, bro? Get up, go do something today. Go do something that makes you use your brain. And scaffolding is the therapeutic approach that I talk about. That you don't have to go do work for the next 7 hours. Go do some really thoughtful work for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Even that will get your brain online. And as cheesy as it sounds, we have a puzzle going at all times in the winter, and it's pretty wild because you walk by and you like try to find these puzzle pieces and you can feel your brain firing up doing it. And my husband said it this morning. He's like, I can't believe how much easier it is to do this puzzle in the morning than it is in the evening. And he's like, I've just been putting a couple pieces in, like when we get done with our morning routine. That's really good for your brain. So find your thing. If you don't love puzzles, find something to fire your brain up.
Awesome. I'm going to answer one of the questions that are in here. Forever. I don't know what this is precisely about, but what do you do if you don't attract anyone or you don't feel like you do?
Yep. And I made a long video that I actually have to look back and see what the watch time, because I'm like, this thing's 20 minutes. Like 4 people are going to watch it because it's 20 minutes long. But
It's really good though.
The answer is in there. And if you're going to give people real details, it takes 20 minutes, but I will answer you in 2 minutes here, hopefully 3 minutes. But if you're not attracting anyone or you don't feel like you are, that is coming from within you. Like the lack of attraction is inside of you. And if you have been watching porn, and if you watch porn anytime recently, it decreases your energetic field. It changes you. It really does. That's why I'm here. And so you likely aren't attracting people if you're caught up in this vortex. But when you stay out of the screen, and especially if you start doing the strategies, and so many people tell me this, so it's so cool to hear it out of their mouths, is that, one person told me this week that, like, I'm mind blown to like think about how I acted a month ago. And I read some of my thoughts in my journal, and I can't believe I wrote those things down, all about like perceiving other people and how interacting with people in the world. So, the deal is that energy is coming from you. So when you stay out of the screen and when you get on purpose in your life, the one you actually want, I know it's difficult for people, and I always call it your true authentic self. When you feel good from the inside, you attract people. And that's why my husband jokes all the time that, and I'm not doing anything and I'm not the best looking person in the world, but if I walk into a room, people come to me because my energy, generally speaking, is in, unless I'm being cynical, which Jamie's seen me disintegrate into cynicism. The cynicism, and honestly, like when I disintegrate my personality type because I'm super stressed out, that's palpable too. I walk into the room and you can feel the cynic coming off me, and I repel people those times, but it's generally very, few and far between in my life. But in general, when I walk in, people can feel that positive energy coming off of me. So that's what you need to do. Do the things you love in your life: work, relationships, and hobbies. I'm telling you, it seems simple, but if you can build that into your life, a game changer.
And it's one of the strong things is building it into your life, writing it down, making a schedule, and sticking to it. It's really hard to do things if you don't have something planned. So the next question is from Gigi. I'm on day 2 and I'm getting clear flashbacks and strong urges. What is the best advice for strong, sudden urges?
Yep, you have to make a pivot plan, as I call it. Don't leave anything up to chance, and don't have to make any decision in that urge moment. Know what you're going to do and then force yourself to do it. And that's why I think characterizing those urges as the hijacker can make that into a person for you. And again, a lot of people have told me this, when I've kind of given that hijacker a face and a persona, it's easier for me to say to that hijacker, no way, man, not today. I made this plan and you are not taking me down. And then when you have the plan, so the plan has to do 2 things: change your physical and mental space. So if you change your physical space, it helps to change your mental space. So it's imperative. So that's why I say, if it's in the middle of the day, you go outside and you go for a walk. You go play basketball. You go get a cup of coffee. But you know what you're going to do. You don't go, I'm feeling urgy. What should I do? Because you won't be able to make that good decision in that moment. You have it written down in a physical kit. Get a playlist of music, crank up some tunes. It'll totally change your physical and mental space. My kids are all home again today. It feels like these kids haven't gone to school in 2022. But they're down there. They got Versace. My son Declan rocks out to Versace. There's girlfriends, there's boyfriends, there's friends, and they're just chilling. And so like when the music comes on, it's a palpable change in the energy. And so get your favorite playlist, but don't make a decision. What song should I listen to? You know what I've been jamming out to? The Walker by Fitz and the Tantrum. It's an old song, but I usually pick a song and kind of rock out to it. And when I put that song on, it's so snappy and so fantastic. It just makes me want to go for a 25-mile run. It just jazzes my energy up. And if I don't feel like working, it's like back to work, sister, because, it juices me up. So playlist. Chocolate's very dopamine producing. We know this from the science. So not that I want people getting a chocolate addiction, but in the meantime, have some dark chocolate with sea salt. Snaps your brain out of that urge, literally put some dopamine into the system. And if it's the middle of the night, it's harder. So if it's the middle of the night, you can put some music on. Don't put on the Walker, but put on Pachelbel's Canon. Don't embrace the thoughts. Now, here's the deal with the fantasy. And these are the things that I wanted to cover. And I know it's going to help everybody. Someone wrote in the comments on the video announcing this that it's porn for sleep. So like I've been watching porn to go to bed between 9 and 10, for the last 20 years. And now I can't go to sleep. Your brain depends on it for all that dopamine to flood your system and to chill it out so you can go to sleep. So of course there's going to be a rewiring period, and that's going to be tricky. And so then when you stop watching it, your brain is going to fire up those neural pathways again. So that's where the fantasy comes from. And this is what I wanted you to know quickly, is that fantasy comes from that slow brain pattern. When your brain slows down, it creates those creative thoughts. So somebody else wrote that, my mind wanders off and I find myself thinking about, porn portraits or scenes. It's because your brain needs a break. It's slowing down. So at nighttime, your brain slows down to fall asleep. So it will create those scenes that you've put into your brain so many times. So you have to put something else in. And that's why I encourage people to read a book. Or if you can't read because it's too difficult because of executive function, watch a show. And I made a video on the Purge and Reboot. If you have to watch a show that's actiony and like Jack Reacher. Have you seen Jack Reacher?
Yeah.
On Amazon? It's really good. It's so good. We have 2 more left. But it's very violent. And we put it on in bed the other night. And my husband's like, I think this is bad for me right before bed. But it's like pretty slow. And then it's like not good for your brain. Of course, I'm just like, I'm not even watching that. But, so that actiony is going to also kind of give your brain what it's looking for too. But then you want to watch something slow, but give your brain something else to think about. In my program, we do an executive function project so that your brain, when it wants to go to fantasy, it thinks about the treehouse, because I had the idea, but I realized it's a terrible idea. I said to my husband the other day, maybe we should build a treehouse in the backyard, because we've been saying we're going to do it for like 15 years. This is the year. Then I realized we've got like 14 projects that have loose ends. It's not the time for a treehouse. But a treehouse is a really cool project. And that's what I liked about it, because if we started planning it right now, your project should be at least 30 days long, and you should care about it and you should get psyched about it. Because then guess what happens is when you're starting to fall asleep, you're thinking about treehouse designs, not porn. And it can replace the stuff that used to go into your brain. Or you're thinking about the trip you're going to take. Or you're thinking about, something that you're putting into your brain. So that's important. But don't grab those thoughts or those scenes, because if you grab them, you're going to fire up those neural pathways, and it's going to take you longer to move forward.
All right, got one from Mike. When can I start dating after being clean for X amount of days?
Sure. And I made a video about this too. And I don't know what I called it. I don't know if you remember, James. I should just call it dating, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. But if you can think about it, and I'll kind of give you the quick and dirty. And in the video, I know what it was. It was like some steps to finding the right partner or something. Not the recent ones. But anyways, the idea is if you have to increase your self-awareness. So if you can't even do this, then it's not time yet. So you have to know if you're going into the world and you have the ability to kind of approach people as whole people, not just objectifying people for body parts or the thought of having sex with them, which of course, if you're interested in a whole person, that's part of it, but that can't be the main driving force. It has to be like, I'm going into the world because I want to find someone to connect with. And in the video I just made, the long one, it has concepts like this too. And there is an older one. And in the older video, I say like, if you can approach a person and, you're in and there's eye contact and you're just vibing that person, that is okay to approach dating. But if you are just thinking about sex and you're thinking about their body parts and it's just dopamine hit oriented, then don't do it yet. Wait till your brain rewires itself. And if you can't even know which one, wait also, because your self-awareness has to increase.
And that video that you have, How to Get the Girl of Your Dreams, I think is a really great video for a lot of individuals to watch, because it really does help you think about certain things when you see somebody out in public. So y'all check that out.
Totally. I know. And that's why it's so long. And in there, I tell the story about like when my husband and I first met, you know, we were hanging out as friends for a long time. And he's like, you know, he wanted me to go out with him. I'm like, no way, man, because this is going to ruin the cool thing we've got going. And of course, like, you know, we were crunching on each other, but we let that develop over some time. It wasn't like, you know, just jumping into the sack with each other. So like when it develops more organically like that, then you can know where you're at in your head. And, you know, that's what you need to be able to do. And then that's developing a relationship on a healthy foundation, which becomes the rest of it. So that's why it's so important too, because if you do that, then you will have a better luck of doing the 4 other things I talk about in that video.
All right.
Let's see what we have going here. Let's with some comments. Are you picking some out? Yeah, Joe has a great one about Christianity and Catholicism and cultural, which we can talk about that if we want here. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to answer this one from, let's see if I can show it. This is okay, James, do you mind if I hijack this for a second? Okay, so can you give me an exact strong reason to stop PMO? That is awesome. And it's so funny because I have on one of my Post-it notes, which I'm embarrassed to show you how many there are, right here. It says the problem with porn. And it's as simple as that, because it is, here's just the number one reason. We know that it's damaging your brain, and we know it's knocking out your frontal lobe, and we know it's knocking out the reward centers in your brain, even if you don't understand how. And if you don't have any problems yet, thank God for you, because it is a downward spiral. As it starts damaging your brain, there's no way it can't, and there's no way it can't get worse over time because of all these different mechanisms, which I won't go into. But when that happens, what it does is it negatively impacts your mental health. So in terms of how you feel psychologically and cognition, thinking, and your physical health. And one of the number one reasons people start to care, an exact strong reason, is it leads to erectile dysfunction. So young people are getting erectile dysfunction, which leads to performance anxiety. So they finally go dating and they see that honey that they're interested in being with, and they can't. And it spikes their anxiety, which increases their mental health issues, which perpetuates the physical issues. And you could be caught in that loop for decades. And I tell people, that's not me freaking you out. That's me creating urgency about a real thing that is happening to millions of people, not 5 people, millions of people. And I do not want you to be one of them if you're not yet. And if you don't believe me, you can read the comments on this channel. And if you don't believe that, you can go to any other channel and read people's comments. You can get the books on it. You can get your brain on porn. So the point is, that will happen if you don't stop. Now, the beautiful thing is, if you do stop, your brain can rewire itself. And then you can, get healthy again. You can back all those things out and you can ride off into the sunset. That's a strong reason.
Absolutely.
Am I right or am I right?
You're right. And it's the fact that you do brain maps and you're able to see, what the brain is doing. And, that is how you got into this.
Yeah, and Jamie's seen that now, Jamie's seen that now that she's been with me for a long time. That was my primary motivator. I'm like, wow, this is really effing up people's brains, and it is creating these. Is there Sarika? Yeah. No, Sarika. We live on YouTube. That it has that silent tsunami that I talk about. And that's not my term. The term silent tsunami, I borrowed from a colleague in this field, is that then the undertow of all of that. And here's another really strong reason that'll start happening to you and you won't even understand it has to do with porn. And that's the story of so many people on this channel. by seeing my videos, they're like, wow, those things that have been happening to me that I had no idea had to do with my porn use, they're because of my porn use. And that creates massive urgency for people to stop.
Absolutely. Side effects are horrible.
I know. And all you need to know is, 5 people's stories, and you will get into my program and feverishly start doing it if you understood like where you can go with this thing. And if you know anybody who has real consequences, not that people really talk about it, people, especially young people, will kind of brag about watching porn, or it's part of the club to watch porn. Nobody will start telling their friends of all the bad stuff that's happening to them,
Yeah.
generally speaking.
So I've got one from Mark Dixon. Hey, Mark Dixon. I'm breaking with porn from your house. Okay, only 2 months divorce and an isolator. I'm struggling with the desire to connect with people, but not having many social resources yet for doing so. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, for sure. So, think outside the box. I know you might not think you have a lot of social resources, especially in today's day and age online. It's amazing the things that you can do. So, this is what I encourage you to do, Mark. Make a list of all the things that you like right now. Write them all down. Free flow it for like 2 minutes. Don't stop writing until 2 minutes is up, and try to get 50 things that you like on paper. Then guarantee there's an online club for every last one of them, where you can probably even do video aspects of it. Obviously, better yet, you go into the world and you get, and it takes courage, but courage is important for you in this journey, to be able to put yourself out there and to meet people and to connect with people who are like-minded. And it doesn't mean they're the same, and it doesn't mean that every single one of those experiences are going to go well. But what it means is, first of all, you're going to get better at it. And secondly, along the way, you're going to start making some friends. You're going to connect. You're not going to feel as lonely. Things are going to start feeling better for you. And, it's an important skill to build in terms of, if you're going to create this for yourself. And the cool thing is, I know from working with so many people, is when they start doing that, things really start changing for them in a really positive way. Hey, Jim, I'm going to put this up real quick. Steve Mack Productions. Life is completely different altogether. Socially much more comfortable, improved focus. I could go on for much longer. It's hard, but it's getting easier and easier. Thank you, Steve Mack, awesome. Because that is really important. Like, it's just worth it. And I know people can't see that. I know it's hard. And I, hopefully you can, understand that I get that it's hard, but I also get that, like I talked to a young person the other day. I'm like, either you do this now, or you do it later, and it's a million times harder, and you have so many more problems. So if you have any inkling in yourself that, this isn't something you want to be part of your life for the whole rest of your life, then no matter how old you are, now's the time, because once you get over the really hard part, it will get easier and easier, and it's totally worth it.
And one thing I'm just going to say, taking calls and speaking with individuals on the phone, the hardest thing to hear is, I thought of something, or I'm engaging in things that I never thought I would engage in. I am desiring things and watching things that I am so ashamed of. And it's just going to escalate and get worse. So it's really hard to hear that.
Yeah. And that shame perpetuates it. This stuff's built on a shame foundation, and, that we can talk about that later, but then the shame of kind of having been consuming porn for so long, and especially as it escalates, we know from so many stories, and we know from the science that, that's what keeps feeding it. That's the loop that it keeps going around and around and around.
So I have a question from Ahmed. Does resisting an urge help, or should another strategy be used when urges is at its peak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, first let me say hi to Wilbur Terry. Hey, Emil. Thanks for joining us here. Urges, you need a pivot plan. And I want you to remember that urges aren't about sex. They're not about sexual feeling. It is about mood regulation, stress reduction, and boredom. And those are the two main things. So when you're feeling that sexual urge, listen to it as a call for taking the edge off stress or relieving boredom. And another cool thing that someone said to me this week, but this someone could be anybody because I've heard it hundreds of times, is that I didn't even get that stress was a part of this. But now that I'm 30 days clean, and it was a person who had a slip, I can see the stress pattern now. I couldn't even see it before because it was buried in all of this. But because of 30 days clean, stress hit this high level and then pushed him into a slip. But because of that, he's like, now I can see how stress played the role. So I would encourage you to look at it as stress and boredom, and go back a half hour. What led you to that urge? Go back an hour, go back a day, go back 2 days. And in there, you'll find the call for stress reduction or boredom. Then change something, do something new, make a plan to offset stress and boredom. And remember, porn's become your tool. It's your one tool. It's the one tool that, or one of a few tools that you've had in your tool belt to offset stress and boredom. So when you get a new toolbox and you fill it with the 50 tools that Mark Dixon's going to write down, hopefully he's already writing now. I'm only kidding, Mark, that when he writes it down, now you go, oh, I have 50 tools. I've got chess club. I've got biking. I've got, thrifting, and I've got whatever things I've got, and they feel it really fun. I've got music. I've got playing guitar. Those all become the tools for stress and boredom. And when you have this like flexibly scheduled life, things are good.
All right, I've got Martin is asking, can you talk about slips and relapses? Like, is there a time frame around those?
Yeah, I have a really cool way to talk about it today. Is that so? No, there's not really. How I think it's either win or learn. So if you have a slip, learn from it so that you can keep moving forward. Don't beat yourself up. Extend yourself grace, but spend time with it and go, what happened? What's the dealio here? And if you can't dissect it yourself, that's what coaching's about. If you can't see your own patterns, then you need to be able to get somebody who can easily see those patterns. That's what happens in the coaching calls with me and with Jackie. I'll get on a coaching call. I do neurofeedback coaching, but we do coaching within it. And when we do that, I'll be like, can I stop you there for a second and share something? And that share is the pattern that the person can't even see. And actually, I'm reading Will Smith's new book, which is really, really good. If anybody is inspired to read it, so well written, has everything to do with what we talk about here. Really good book. I'm listening to it, it's a really good performance too. The way he reads it and the way he talks about it. But, in there, he says that he can see all the patterns and all the people that are in his life. But he's talking about this time when he was having a ton of sex with a ton of people and buying cars and all this jazz. And he's like, I couldn't even see that was me trying to soothe myself in my wounds deep down inside. And he's like, I could peg everybody else's patterns, but, I'm going out, hoeing myself around basically. And I couldn't even see that was just me trying to fill the holes. And that's how this thing goes. So, you have to be able to see your own patterns, and a coach can help you do that. But the slips and the relapses are the best way to be able to do that. A slip is, the way I talk about it is you're on this journey and, you decide you're going to start and you're on your way down the path, and then you stumble and fall. That's a slip. And then if you go, whoa, there's a rock there. How did I trip over that rock? What is that rock? How did that rock get in my way? That's dissecting the slip. And if you learn from it, then you keep going down your path and there's another rock, but you jump over it. You don't fall. A relapse is you slip over that rock and maybe you do or don't learn from it. And then you keep walking and you fall over another rock. But, if you keep falling over rocks mile after mile, clearly you're not learning how to, puddle jump these rocks. So that's why the slips are so important. A relapse is you get yourself back into a rhythm, and it could be hours on end, or it can just be once a week or once a month. You're back in this rhythm of your brain needs it, but you keep falling over the rocks on the pathway. And if you keep not slipping, but if you keep relapse, these rocks keep taking you down, that it's exhausting and excruciating for you. That's why if you take the slip and you learn from it and you don't fall over the next rock, you quickly get cruising on the path and things are good. I just wanted to say one more thing about Steve Mack saying that the best decision was to get something that blocks. I was made blocking porn sites and adult content on his phone. And we are proponents, we like to tell people about Covenant Eyes because it's a really good blocker. Actually, we're looking into a new one that reach out to us, but we won't recommend ones that you can disable yourself. And for some people it works, but for others they don't. And we have a coupon code for that, don't we? What is that,
Yes,
Trish?
it's Trish.
Yeah, so it's just Trish. So if you're interested in a blocker, and I agree with you that, a lot of people, to be able to get over those urges, you have to block it. And that's the defensive plan. So in my program, you run defense first, but defense again becomes exhausting and you don't want to have to run defense for your whole life. So you get running offense, which is building that foundation of putting all the good routines and habits, changing your thought systems, changing your framework. So good stuff.
All right. Keva says, you say that reading books is a good thing to do when an urge happens. Is the book genre important, or is there a genre to avoid?
Yeah. So let me expand on that, because it's not really like when an urge happens, it's a good idea, because obviously you're having an urge, you won't even be able to read a book. You know what I mean? Like a book isn't going to take your mind off it probably, but a cool way to use a book is if you like fantasy types of genres that might be, it depends on what you're into. So you're into Star Wars, Star Wars types of books. If you're into adventure, but the point is, if you get in the habit of in the evening or before bedtime, reading a book that takes your mind away from your life, from the stress or the boredom of your actual life, and you can get wrapped up into fantasy in a healthy way, then that could be a really good thing for you, because what you'll find happens is your mind will think about your book and you'll get excited to go get back into your book instead of your brain getting excited to get back into porn. And that's why I said, if you can't read, now I read all day long, like my eyes are cooked by the end of the day. So I read all day. So like I can't get into bed and read. It's just, I have to chill in a different way. And I don't really watch a lot of TV, but if I'm going to, I'm going to watch something that like takes my mind away from the day and lets everything come down. And so if that's something that you want to do, do that if you're a person who's in front of a computer or in the books all day. But in the genre doesn't matter. Obviously, stay out of anything triggering and be able to, it's really like you want your mind to fantasize in a healthy way, because right now it's used to fantasizing in an unhealthy way. So your two choices are to stop it from fantasizing, which is clearly more difficult, or to give it something healthy to fantasize about, the thing you're planning, the thing you're excited about creating in your own life. The show that you have 2 more episodes of until it's over. I texted my husband texted me yesterday, only 2 more Jack Reachers. I'm like, dude, what are we going to do once? I'm like, dude, what are we going to do? I was kidding because he'll always like let the next one start. And I'm like, we cannot watch 2 episodes in one night. Like it's way too much Jack Reacher. So then I joked with him. I texted him back, dude, what are we going to do after tonight? Which we didn't even watch one last night. But the cool thing is, like, obviously he's at work thinking about Jack Reacher. He looked it up. This is exactly what I'm talking about. He looked it up to see how many episodes were left. And so, like, binge watching is not good. But you get what I'm saying. It gives your mind something to think about, like, so, or even movies. My kids are into movies, and I forget what's coming out. Something's coming out, and my son Seamus already had me make a plan with him to go see it. And we're going to double date because he has a girlfriend now. So he's going to bring his girlfriend, and my husband and I don't know if anybody knows, coming out in like 2 weeks. It's got to be something in the Marvel universe, or I can't remember what it is, but so it's cool because his mind's already thinking about that, something that he likes.
So I got one from We Know Who. Where can you get more information about the silent tsunami and how to talk to young kids and adults, or young adults and kids about it?
Yeah. So we are working on that, but we are nowhere near providing that quite yet, because that's the nonprofit that we have created, just so you know, and shameless, because I'm not into shame, plug about the nonprofit that I've created. It's at pornbrainprevention.org. And we have a website. You're going to probably put it in your search bar because we haven't had it SEO'd yet, but we've actually raised a decent amount of money last year. And we plan on raising more money this year to be able to do that. Is what we are doing is creating a digital program for parents to be able to talk to their children, for church leaders, for schools, for doctors, therapists, especially urologists and psychotherapists, because kids go to these people all the time and they have mental health. Like I already told you, they have mental health, they have cognitive issues like ADHD, and they have physical issues. And all of these people don't know what to say to them. So we are putting together a really short digital program for those professionals to be able to tell those kids the right things. In the meantime, there is a book that is called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures that you can get on Amazon. And it's a book. There's 2 versions for younger kids and for a little bit older kids in terms of being able to talk with kids about it. And we do have a parent program or program in the works that we planned on, because we're pacing ourselves, putting out in the summer, so that people have a short program, just the quick and dirty on how to approach your kids about this stuff. And trust me, it's not an easy thing to do, because I have 5 kids, and I'll tell you just a short version about how to talk to anybody about this, especially young people, is here's just the easy way to talk about it, is that create a safe space to do that. Don't call them out in the middle of something that is happening. Don't shame them, because you know what happens there. So like, for example, and it's hard as a parent, I'll tell you, man, I do this stuff all day, every day. Like if something's happening around, like which I have actually, if I've walked in and seen things, I will not do it in that moment and freak out, because I have to get myself regulated to be able to come back. But I'll come back and go, hey, can I talk to you? And I've done this to each one of my kids, to their dismay. And I've talked to them about sex too, to their dismay. And the way that I've said it is like, okay, let's talk about this. What do you know? This is a really good rule. Instead of telling kids everything about everything, what do you know? Or, I saw this on your screen. What's going on with that? And let them tell you. Pause, bite your tongue, sit on your hands. Let them tell you what's going on with them. And I remember this, one of my kids, when they were really little, they came home from the bus. My first 4 are all a year apart, and they just turned 19, 18, 17. We're in birthday season, and my son's almost 16. But when they were little, they came off the bus, and one of them goes, "What's sex?" And I'm like, I'm making dinner. I'm like, what? What's sex? And then I'm like, sex. Oh my gosh, I got to talk to these little babies about sex. So I'm like, I'm making dinner. Give me a minute. And it was one of those like divinely inspired moments where it all came out right. I was very proud of myself, but I probably have take no credit for it. But I said, what's going on? What do you guys know about this? And then they told me some stuff that they heard on the bus. And, I just validated it as real life stuff. I didn't make giant deal out of it, but I, tried to tell them the things that were healthy for them at that age and the things that weren't good idea for them at that age and why. And then here's the important part. I've talked to them 15 times each since that day. So like, I will say, my son got a new girlfriend when he was a couple years younger. And I'm like, let's just talk about this. And he's like, oh, we don't need to talk about that. And I'm like, remember I said this is going to be an ongoing conversation. Like, this is a safe place, he listened, and I just told him to be careful, yada, yada. But, so if you can meet kids where they are, don't call them out in front of other people, make private space, make it safe, do a lot of listening. And then the good pictures and bad pictures helps. And the obviously the idea of good pictures and bad pictures is that when you go on the internet, there's things that are fine for you to see, but letting them know when they see things that have nudity or sexual acts, that is not healthy for their brain, and it's actually damaging for their brain. And that it feels good, but that good feeling is damaging to their brain, and that's not something that they should do. And it empowers kids to not want to do that, not just stay away from it because you told them. And it goes back to the theory that we use in my program. It's called integration theory. When you know the why and the how, you care more. So like, just an easy way, like that one-liner.
So Carmel says, how do you know when your brain is healed from porn? I haven't watched in over 2 months, and I don't plan to anymore.
Yeah, cool. So if you get that headband, the Muse headband, and we have, I don't know if you can put the link in there, Jane, probably. We have a link where you can get 15% off the Muse headband. You can see your brain performing better, which is really, really cool. And so like you'll have measurable data on your brain was performing, and then you'll see it changing over time to a better performance pattern. And I made one video, and I plan on making more, but time is my biggest issue, I guess. one video kind of explaining how you know what anxiety looks like, how you know what that overwhelmed, fatigued, ADHD type of brain looks like. So that's one way. But another way is keep a journal and reflect on what is happening to you in a journal, and you'll be able to see how your thought processes are changing. You'll write what's going on with you, and then you'll be able to look back and go, wow, I really am in a better place than I was. And I said this in one of the videos I just made, and I made another video go live at 1 p.m. today, just so everybody knows, that goes along with the video that came out on Wednesday. Moving into Valentine's Day, I made a couple extra videos, and I talk about this, is that, if you can't dissect those things by yourself, then you need someone who's emotionally mature that you can share this stuff with, and then they can reflect it back to you and give you feedback. And again, that's what coaching is. And, if you don't want to coach with me, you don't have to, but I encourage you to find somebody who's emotionally mature, where you can go, this is kind of what's going on with me. And then that person can give you some good feedback on, how things are going for you. And I talk about this here a lot, that I always have a coach, and I got my old coach back, and he's great. Actually, we had a coaching session yesterday. I was thinking I should invite him on here someday, because he is a good coach. And you know what he said? He's like, he goes right out of the beginning, goes, I can tell you're doing better. I can just feel it in your energy. I can feel it in the way that you're talking, because I'm streamlining some things. I've got some good things moving forward. I've been drowning in stuff I can't get done, and that doesn't feel good. So I thought that was really cool, because it was perceptible to him. And then, yeah. And so when he said it back to me, and he gave me some specifics why, I'm like, that's awesome. And I wrote those things down in my coaching journal, so I can reflect on those things. Plus, he gave me action steps to work on until I talk to him next week. And so, I feel supported by him. And at the same time, he really did make me feel so much better about the direction I'm moving in. What else we got? I have to bounce in 3 minutes, so let's take one more. Oh, Joe, let me answer Joe's question about, it's a constant tug of war between healthy sexual intimacy, relations with a partner, and abstinence until marriage. So yes, Joe, that is a cultural or religious tug of war. And I work with lots of people who are in that tug of war. But, especially porn consumption, I think and this isn't, I don't usually like to go towards moral incongruency, but we know moral incongruency is one of the number one reasons also, besides erectile dysfunction. Moral incongruency, there's a study, and I made a video on it, can really propel people in the right direction. So consuming pornography is very morally incongruent, as is masturbation. And I just recorded a video. I was invited to do a video from, what's it called, James? Catholic Challenge. Catholic Challenge. And, I just talked about masturbation and pornography, and and the person that interviewed me was bringing it back to the Bible and Catholicism, and how it doesn't line up. So, even though it's difficult, I encourage you to realize, and my mentor always said, no one's going to die from not masturbating. That was his thing. He'd say it over and over. Nobody ever died from not masturbating. And so when you put all that energy into developing healthy intimacy with other people, with your peeps, your friends, and your family, when you put that energy into developing a healthy partnership, and then moving towards, what feels good to you in terms of your religious understanding, and in real life, it just feels good to be able to be moving forward with a partner. So I would encourage you, even though it's difficult, like Steve Mack said, it's hard, but it gets easier. And then once you're on the right path, you're going to feel so good that you're doing the things that you've devoted yourself to. So that becomes really important.
All right, really quickly, Steve is asking, thank you for your contribution, Steve and David. We really appreciate it. Addicted 16 to 26, blame memory loss for years on boxing, cannabis, stopped all of them for a while, and problems continued until I found you. How long could it take my memory to fully recover?
Yeah. So, Steve, here's what I'm telling you. Here's what I want to tell you about this. Boxing, you likely have some head injury sustained from that. Cannabis, lowers the power in the brain. Boxing basically lowers, if you took a hit, which I'm sure you did, it lowers the power in the brain, increases slowing. So does cannabis, so does porn. So that's kind of a trifecta of low and slow power. If I were you and if you could afford it, I would encourage you to get that headband, because if you started using it 5 minutes a day, it's going to power up your brain and decrease the slowing. And you'll feel it faster than if you don't do anything, And again, how long can it take for your memory to fully recover? The more strategies that you use, the faster. If you don't use any strategies, you may not ever fully recover your memory. I've worked with so many people who have been diagnosed with dementia, which dementia is like the epitome of low and slow. I've worked with some people with head injury actually too, low and slow. And using neurofeedback, which is now put into that headband, and strategies like I already talked about, scaffolding your brain to like think hard for 15 minutes at a time, but then give it time to rest and recover. That's how it's going to come online faster. And I know, I'm sorry, I can't give you a time frame, but if you do those things, faster instead of slower. Okay, I got to roll, because if I don't by 2:30, I'm super late instead of a minute or two late. So thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to be back next month. We're going to put a video out that we're going to be back next month, long before, not the Wednesday before, with any amount of luck. And hopefully this helps you out, and have an amazing week. We're moving into Valentine's Day. So I encourage you, I have a video coming out at 1 p.m. It's 14 minutes. Get a cup of coffee, watch it. It'll help you out. And I have a Valentine's Day message also. And I'm going to send that one out on Sunday morning so that you can get yourself ready to have an amazing global Hallmark holiday. Somebody in my 90-day program told me Valentine's is all over the world. So it's a global Hallmark holiday, and we're going to use it. We're going to use it for intimacy. So hopefully you will join us there. Okay. I don't know how to leave, James. Do you know how I'm leaving the studio. Okay. Goodbye. Have a great day. Have a good weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye. Just so everybody knows, we are going to also be doing webinars where Dr. Leigh will be able to answer questions. It won't be in YouTube Live, but it will be in Eventbrite. If anybody is interested in getting, updates, information, just basic information, if you would like to be added to our email list, you can go to drtrishleigh.com and download the blueprint at the bottom. And Dr. Leigh has got the links for the Muse. She's got individual coaching. We've actually just hired a coach, Jackie, that has joined our team. She is wonderful. If you want a trial coaching session, we have that also available. If you go to the website, if y'all have any questions that you would like to be added to the next live, you can always email me at jamie@drtrishleigh.com. I'll put that in the text or the chat box if you ever want to reach out. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining. Bye.